The telegram arrived not with a knock, but with a silence that was louder than any bomb blast. It was placed on Alistair Finch-Hutton's pristine desk by a secretary whose shoes made no sound on the Persian rug. Patriarch, deceased. Stop. Return to London immediately. Stop. Liquidity crisis. Stop. The words were a sterile, brutal summary of a life. Alistair's father was reduced to a corporate problem. In Ceylon, the news came on a damp, fragrant breeze that rustled the pages of the ledger open on Julian's desk. A boy from the telegraph office ran up the path, his breath ragged. Julian read the message, the neat type a stark contrast to the chaotic, teeming green of the tea terraces outside his window. He felt the world tilt, not from grief, but from the sheer weight of a legacy he had never wanted. They stood in the gloom of their father's London study a week later, two bookends of resentment. Alistair, in a Savile Row suit that was a second skin, smelled of ink, ambition, and the metallic tang of the city. Julian's skin was sun-beaten, his jacket still carrying the scent of wood smoke and crushed cinnamon leaves. "The company is a carcass," Alistair stated, his voice a calibrated instrument. "Hargreaves & Co. are circling. They've offered to buy our debts. Father was leveraging assets that don't exist." Julian ran a calloused finger over the spine of a leather-bound book. "He wasn't a fool, Alistair. He was a trader. He understood value beyond a balance sheet." "Value doesn't pay creditors," Alistair shot back, his composure cracking. "There's a ledger, his private one. It's missing. Without it, we can't even see the shape of the hole we're in." The search was a tense, silent negotiation. Julian, who knew their father's sentimental side, found it tucked behind a false panel in the library next to a first edition of Kipling. It was not a ledger of numbers, but of people. A web of informal loans, favors owed, and secret partnerships stretched from the docks of London to the highlands of Ceylon. The most damning entry was a debt of £20,000, a life-saving loan during a monsoon season owed to a Sinhalese tea grower named Mr. Dharmadasa. The collateral was Finch-Hutton's primary Ceylon estate, the very heart of their tea operations. "He mortgaged the soul of the company to a local planter?" Alistair's voice was dangerously quiet. "He insured its survival," Julian corrected, his idealism flaring. "Dharmadasa isn't a creditor, he's a partner. You wouldn't understand." Their father's last cryptic note was scrolled in the margin. "The solution is not in the sum, but in the source." The race was on. Alistair stayed in London, a spider in a web of wires and threats, using his financial cunning to stall Hargreaves. Julian boarded the first ship back to Ceylon, the private ledger burning a hole in his luggage. The plan was simple: secure an extension from Dharmadasa. But Julian knew it was a beggar's plea. The real solution, if it existed, was buried in the Emerald Hills. He found Mr. Dharmadasa not in an office, but in a shaded courtyard, sipping tea. He was a small man with eyes that held the deep, patient knowledge of the earth. Julian laid out the situation bluntly, the humiliation a bitter taste in his mouth. Dharmadasa listened, then lifted his cup. "Your father did not just save my business, he saved a knowledge. He financed my small, foolish project." He gestured to a corner of the garden where a unique, silvery green tea bush grew, unlike any other. A rediscovered ancient strain, more resilient, more complex. He called it his Lotus investment. It takes years to cultivate. The banks called it a weed. Julian's heart hammered against his ribs. The solution is not in the sum, but in the source. He sent a frantic cable to Alistair. "Forget the debt. Hargreaves wants our existing supply chain. They don't know about the Lotus. Father's real asset is intellectual property. We sell them the old, we keep the new." In London, Alistair stared at the message. It was a gambit of breathtaking audacity. It required lying to a room full of sharks. He saw not a plantation manager's naivete, but a trader's masterstroke. Their father's legacy wasn't the debt, it was the vision to see the next harvest. The climax unfolded on two fronts. In a smoke-filled London boardroom, Alastair, playing the desperate heir, skillfully negotiated the sale of the Finch Hutton Ceylon operations to Hargreaves, carefully omitting any mention of the Dhammadasa partnership and the experimental strain. He used their predatory confidence against them, securing a price that covered the public debts and left a small surplus. Simultaneously, in Ceylon, Julian and Mr. Dharmadasa signed a new partnership. Finch Hutton and Dharmadasa would own the Lotus tea exclusively. Julian offered a 51% stake to the old man. It was no longer a deal between a colonizer and the colonized, but between equals who understood the soil. Weeks later, the first sample of the Lotus tea arrived in London. Alastair brewed it in his father's old study, the room now feeling less like a tomb. The aroma was unlike anything he had known, floral, deep, with an undeniable strength. He sipped, and for a moment he wasn't in London. He was standing on a sun-drenched terrace, the weight of a shared future on his shoulders, finally understanding the brother who had chosen to stay. He drafted a cable, the words uncharacteristically personal. The lotus has bloomed. Stop. The future begins now. Stop. Come home soon. Stop. It wasn't an invitation to London. It was an acknowledgement that home was no longer a place, but the fragile, newly repaired bridge between them. The ledger was closed. A new page had been turned.